So, part two, I was just talking about how my cousin always felt that something was off. And yeah, that's when my family noticed it too. And then even that summer, Kenny did tell me too, like, even his brother noticed it too. I guess his brother pulled him aside and was like, yo, bro, like, y'all good? Like, what's good? Like, why are you kind of treating her like a sister? That's kind of how our relationship came. Like, and it's so crazy because I would even joke and tell my friends, like, yeah, like, we literally, like, fight like siblings, and we literally act like siblings. And they would all look at me crooked, like, ugh, that's disgusting, Merce. Like, what you mean you and your boyfriend are like siblings? But what I was trying to say is, like, we have such a goofy relationship. So yeah, now I think this is around like May, June, July, and then August is when we move into this apartment. And so throughout the time period, he became more irritable, low-key aggressive, just more dismissively avoidant, not affectionate, as I shared, didn't initiate to change his behavior when I would call him out, or initiate really like romantic things. Like the Kenny that I remember was romantic, like, and very like intentional and things like that. Like, and this is the part that really fools me, because another reason why I thought that Kenny was the husband for me was because he really was a good guy. Like, he was good vibes. My family loved him. You know, what my family saw, I saw. You know, like, he's very confident in himself. And because the Kenny that I knew was a good person, like, he was confident for all the right reasons because he was a good person, you know. And he was very generous. He was very willing. He wasn't aggressive. He didn't present himself toxic. Like, the boxes all just checked off for this man. You know, he's very supportive. He was a ride or die. He came through. Like, yeah, he really supported me a lot, and he did put a lot of effort in the relationship. And this sounds weird, but like, because I'm clearly like mad, you know, at him, and so mad, like, and hate him. Where was I going at? But, oh yeah, part of me feels weird saying this, but I'm like, thank you for all of that. And I say that with, like, you know, just not wanting to say that because I'm still in the stage of like, fuck you. But even when he was dying right in front of me, he still put in that effort. And that doesn't go unnoticed, but you didn't have to become so fucking rude. And I didn't mean to sound or be like a mom where I have to like get on you and have you help me, but it's not help me, it's help us. Like, it was just like doing shit like take out the trash that he would get so fucking mad about. And I'm like, bro, like, these are things that we have to do around the house and stuff like that. It's like he just didn't want to be told what to do. And I'm like, bro, like, who's gonna get it done? And, you know, you do kind of have to be on men as a woman, you feel me? Like, you do. So I know y'all, you know what I'm talking about. He just was very negative, and I felt like everything that I did pissed him off and like generally annoyed him. It was just like my entire presence just like aggravated and agitated him. He would always say, I'm so loud, I'm so emotional, all of that. And I'm like, bro, like, don't be acting like you don't know what you got yourself into, because I was always like this. And he would always say, like, you remind me so much of my mom. And that was a compliment, you know, because his mom and I are like very, very similar as to like our personality. So it's just like, I don't know why over time he just got so like triggered or like just so like annoyed, because I'm like, bro, like this ain't new. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you moved in and you're like, what the fuck did I get myself into? It's like you knew what I was like, you know? Yeah, I already said this part. Yeah, it just seemed like it was just a chore to be with me. And he even said it, like I was putting so much effort, you know, when it was kind of like running a race, and you're running a race with your partner, and you guys are like, okay, we're gonna keep this same pace, but then over time they start just like dying down, and you're like, hey, like I know this pace is hard, but we're gonna have to keep going. And he even said it, he's like, I feel like I'm holding you back, like, you know, like I'm ready to get married, I'm ready to have kids, like I'm ready for those next stages of my life. I'm ready to keep people accountable emotionally and in their relationship. And it was like the more times that like I kept getting on him for lacking or like losing that momentum, it was like he would either get irritable or he would shut down and just stare and blink at me. Like literally every time I would present him the opportunities to like really tell me how I feel, he'd either gaslight me and say I wouldn't be all the way out here, or he just wouldn't say anything. And like towards the last stage of a relationship, he just wouldn't say anything. I'm literally telling him I feel so alone in this relationship, and he'd just be like, either wouldn't say anything or be like, well, I don't know why you feel that way, or just normalize it and be like, well, it's normal, we're not in the honeymoon stage anymore. And I'm like, I get that, but like you don't stop dating your person. Oh, I think I said this part. Like, yeah, as we moved into the apartment in August, everything changed, and it just got worse. My mom, you know, would came to visit, and I noticed like he just avoided being around her. He was on his phone, and all of that. When I first got my car too, he was sick. So, okay, fine, I'll give him that. But if you're sick, how do you have all the energy to play video games? Anyways, you know, and he wasn't even there. He didn't even come, you know, to be there when I first got my car. And it was like he was more excited that I got a car so that he could stop driving me around. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, babe, like you've been waiting for this moment since you're like 17. Like, so proud of you. Like, yeah, I know he was, but didn't really seem that way. I think I even have a video too where like the day I got my car, I was like dancing, and like he was literally like yelling at me in the living room, telling me, go over there, like why are you so loud? I'm like, bro, like be for real, I'm happy, like shouldn't you be celebrating this with me? Yeah, it just kind of felt like all of my accomplishments like just bothered him. Even on my graduation, he just like low-key was like, I don't know, I feel like a little bit unsupportive, or just like that enthusiasm wasn't there. I even think I remember he was like, I'm so tired, like there's just so many events. And I'm like, boy, I'm the one that's graduating, like, and shouldn't you be happy like that your girl's getting so many awards? Like, anyways, so yeah, ever since we moved into the apartment, it just got worse. My dreams were starting to get really heavy, and I was just having constant anxiety. This was also the time period too where I was unemployed. I was unemployed for a long time. Post grad life, I was like, I didn't have a job for 6 months. I just got a job, like 3 months ago. That's pretty recent, you know? So there, yeah, I was like thriving. I was living my best life in this apartment. I had so much free time, you know, but I also had a lot of anxiety, and I didn't know where that anxiety was coming from. I thought it was because this job was playing me, but who knew it was actually because this man was playing me. T. What did I say? Yeah, so that's another thing that fumbles me too, is because ever since we moved in this apartment, this is when shit hits the fan, and it's like I don't know why he would move into an apartment with me if he was behaving this way. Like, if you're not happy, why do all that? Anyways, so in the months from August all the way till now, I mentioned like my anxiety was really bad. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of nightmares, and like I said, I couldn't identify where it was coming from. And I noticed he also started to go to work like super early for like 2 months straight. So he typically goes in at like, his work schedule is like 10:30 a.m., right? And there was like a time period where he was going in at like, he was waking up at like 5, 6 a.m. Sometimes it even felt like earlier than that. And I'm like, why is he going in so early at work? And I would tell him, like, you don't need to be doing all that. Like, make sure you rest, because it's not like we were struggling financially. Remember, I said that too. And so on October 1st, I will never forget this because I write down all my dreams now. On October 1st, I had a dream that he cheated on me. And that shit was wild. And I even told him that too. And he's like, no. And I believed it. I just wanted to tell him, just because I'm like, yo, that's a nightmare, you know? And what else was I getting at? Oh yeah, one night, I kid you not, I woke up in the middle of the night. I woke up and I went from lying down to sleeping like this, like to sitting up like that, and wide awake. I looked at him and I looked straight, and I heard a clear voice from God. And it was like, break up with him. Bro, that was so spooky. Then there was also time periods too where I got freaked out, because when I looked at him, yo, oh my gosh, it scares me every time I say this. I saw like the devil in him. Oh, I rebuke that in the name of Jehovah. So things started just to get like really weird, and I couldn't identify where that was coming from. And but I just dismissed it, and I just thought it was like my anxiety or the devil fucking with my head, you know? I didn't know what God was trying to communicate with me. Like I said, I just thought that this job was giving me a lot of anxiety, and that's why I'm getting like this. But then I started just really feeling like God was communicating with me that like our time was coming to an end. And there are so many examples that I can give of that, where like a lot of where I felt like God was communicating with me too in this house was like in the bathroom. My friends and I joke, and we're like, well, bro, I gotta visit your bathroom more, because you keep getting some kind of like spiritual awakening in that bathroom. And now don't worry, I'm getting to it now, y'all. This is where shit gets real. And I just felt like God was communicating with me like it's coming to an end. And I didn't want to believe that. And so I just kept shutting it and shutting it and shutting it and shutting it down. There'd be times I'd look around the house and I'm like, yeah, like things just really aren't the same anymore. And like, this is it. And there were points where I was like, well, I'll enjoy it while it lasts then. And I don't know if I'm speaking for the both of us. I think maybe we both kind of felt that, and maybe we just didn't speak on it, but I did. Like, I didn't share all of this because that was very like spiritually confusing to me, but I would share like, yo, I'm getting doubts again, or yo, like something feels off. Excuse me. And I remember too, also, this is where I really feel bad too, in regards to my relationship with God, because I looked myself in the mirror and I'm like, God, if we end up breaking up, like, I will go all out for you. And I felt so bad saying that, because, like, I basically was saying, like, I'm making Kenny my everything, and I know that it's wrong. So if we really don't last together, like, I'll go all in for you, God. And I felt, yeah, just convicted of that. And I think there's even time periods too where I was just kind of like looking at myself in the mirror and was just saying, like, I'm just so tired of pulling teeth to get this man to respond, to just get him to seem so engaged, to get him to just want to be with me. Like, why is everything that I do, or my entire existence, like, why does it bother him? Yeah, so I also just said, like, he just over time just became more and more rude and disrespectful and just showed less care, became so disengaged. My family, like I said, and friends noticed. He didn't really show care or compassion when I felt uncomfortable around his friends. I would bring that up to him, and it just didn't seem like he did much. And even when he did, I was like, oh, damn time. Like, thank you for setting those boundaries. You know, it was just like my spirit just knew, like, the more that he was avoidant, the more, like, I clinged on. I noticed he just started hanging out with his friends more, and I was trying to be understanding of that, but I'm like, bro, they work, like, all the time. Like, can we just do things together? And, like, even though, like, we would, it just felt like he was there, but he wasn't. Like, we didn't even really go on, like, intentional dates where we were connecting or going, you know, or doing all those things. Like, it just felt like he had to spend time with me because it was a chore. Like, even being around him just felt lonely too. Like, we would go out, but we'd go out, but I still felt alone. Like, I would try to put my phone away and spark a conversation, and yeah, I'll admit sometimes we just didn't know what to talk about, but I'm like, you know, you could try, you know. And it just felt like pulling teeth. Like, he was there but he wasn't, and that's what, like, the last stages of our relationship felt like he was there but he wasn't. And yeah, he just really changed. Yeah, and I just said ever since he started that job and made those friends, he just really changed. And I would tell him that. All right, wow. So this is where we get into it now, where I explain why he changed, or really, like, what happened. So this is part 1. In January, I go on a trip with my cousin to Puerto Rico, and it was the first week of January, and I had so much fun. I felt the happiest, and it was so spiritual. Then when I came back, my life flipped upside down, and literally it went to hell. That's when the California fires began, so I literally saw fires outside my window, and who would have known the fires that I seen outside my window was the reality of what my life was about to look like. It went from feeling so happy in Puerto Rico to, girl, you about to land in hell. No, like, for real. You know, the fire, you know, with the California fires, and then shit got real in the relationship. When I remember this day, when he picked me up from the airport, you know what was so weird too? Is every time I feel like my spirit was longing of his attention, I would get in these really bitchy and petty ass attitudes. And that's, like I said, I'll get into where I went wrong, but that's another area where I'll give him that. Like, my pettiness and my attitude and just vibe and my bitchiness, like, really came out. And I remember when he first picked me up, like, he asked how my trip was, but something in me just like did not want to share that with him. My spirit just like became like a bitch. Like I was very petty and just like passive aggressive. I don't know. Like I think it was like as my spirit knew like things are no longer the same between y'all. And then 2 weeks later, I think on Martin Luther King Day. No. On that weekend of Martin Luther King weekend, is when like the shift even happened even more. It felt like I was getting sick. I felt so lethargic that weekend. I remember I went to this church service the weekend before, and it was like talking about going all out for God and like pretty much setting your priorities straight. And I think without even knowing, like that hit my spirit and it like convicted me. And I remember that weekend before Martin Luther King weekend, like we were just both getting irritable towards each other. And I remember he got real disrespectful that weekend too, when I literally just asked him to help me. And then that weekend of Martin Luther King weekend is when it all happened. Like I said, I felt like I was getting sick. I was having a lot of gut issues. Oh yeah, by the way, my body rejected him throughout the entire relationship. TMI, but I was bleeding a lot, you know, when we're doing woo. And I ended up having to switch birth controls because of that reason. And the birth control that I switched to, mind you, I didn't even want to get on birth control because it really, like, it just like fucked me up mentally, the one that I was on before. But I obviously went on it because, you know, duh. But then I've never been on the IUD before, and at that point I was like, they told me I would gain a lot of weight, and at that point I was like still pretty skinny, and at that point I wanted to gain weight, so I did. So also, mind you, I made myself uncomfortable in every way possible to just like accommodate him and just please him, I guess. I started gaining a lot of weight because of the IUD, which is duh. I gained like 50 pounds. This is like the heaviest and the most unhealthiest I've ever been. We both were starting to have gut issues, and I don't want to share, that's TMI. But yeah, my body just like rejected him in all ways possible. I feel like his body rejected me too because we both were having gut issues. Like, I don't know, maybe that's not the case. But yeah, we just always had like gut issues. And my gut was actually communicating with me too. Ooh, tea. But yeah, that's also important to note. Like, I just felt really unhappy in the relationship. I felt so uncomfortable. I'm really insecure about I was really insecure about myself in the relationship, and it's not because like he made me feel that way. I'll give him that. Like, he never contributed to my insecurities, but it just felt like I was just, I don't know, like trying too hard for him became really exhausting. And yeah, I just also felt like I became to just like not love myself in the relationship. And I have a big heart, so I didn't use that heart to love myself. I used it to love him. So that weekend of Martin Luther King weekend, I felt really sick, and I think it was a Monday because we both had that Monday off, and I made plans to hang out with my best friend Amaria. I was going to cancel with her because I was feeling really sick. But I ended up going, and I'm glad that I went. But just still like, wow, like when I came back, nothing was the same anymore. We go to Target, and Amaria's like, hey, like, how are you and Kenny doing? And this is like, a lot of my friends have said this too. They're like, every time I ask about you and Kenny, like, you guys always say like you're good. Like, I love to hear that, but like, you know, shine a little bit some more light like on it. And I was really hesitant to bring that up with her because I knew that once I talked about it, it would become real. And I did. I ended up telling her, like, I'm just starting to feel like my needs aren't being met. You know, every time I voice my opinion to him, he doesn't do anything or doesn't say anything. And as I was getting more in detailed about it, we were in Target and we're going around this aisle 5 times looking for kombucha because my gut was all just messed up. And as I said, like, yeah, like, Kenny just reminds me of AI. I was joking around while saying this. A random girl, looked like she was like 16, intervened in the conversation, like girl talk, and was like, that's because he is AI and break up with him. And I literally took 2 steps back, put myself against the aisle at Target, and was just like in shock. And Amaria defended me and was like, girl, you don't know him, da 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 da. Like, oh no, they locked in, like they get married type shit. And yeah, that shit spooked me. Not gonna lie. I actually ended up having a dream about her probably like weeks after. And I'm telling you, I have so many crazy dreams, y'all. It's crazy. And she came in my dream and I was like thanking her. And I was like, you're an angel. Like, her name was Mia. Mia, if you're watching this, that was in Orange County too when all this happened. Her name was Mia, and I thanked her in the dream. And I was like, Mia, like, thank you so much for saying that. Like, you're an angel. Because guess what? When I went back home, I sat Kenny down and I'm like, yo, get off your video games. Like, we need to talk. And mind you, like, this was all God because I didn't know if I was getting sick or something, but something in my spirit, like, was just trying to communicate with me. And I didn't even, when I sat him down and got his full attention, like, I didn't know what I was going at. I didn't even really plan it. When I first came home, I was just staring at the wall for like a good 10 minutes, and then something in me spoke for me. God in me spoke for me and was like, get off, like, we need to talk. And I didn't plan any of it. And I literally was like to him, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm like getting depressed because, you know, of how work is going, or because of us. And then I guess I just proceeded to just say, like, I don't know how I feel about us anymore. And I was shocked when I said that. Because again, it was like God did it all for me. Like, I didn't even really, I couldn't believe I was speaking. Like, I can't believe that I was saying this. I thought it was just going to be another conversation of me just talking about how alone I feel in the relationship. But nah. When I said that, I could literally see it in his, like, behavior and in his eyes, like, shit hit the fan and this conversation is really actually going somewhere. And it took him so long to process and say how he feels. And, like, now that I'm thinking about it, like, I'm like, okay, then that really was him. Like, I could tell in that moment, like, he was processing it too. And within like 12 minutes, he responded. And at this point, yeah, shit hit the fan. And he's like, honestly, I don't know how I feel about us either. And when he said that, my heart dropped. And I felt like I was about to go on a roller coaster where, like, like, you just feel that anxiety and you feel like you can't breathe. But deep down in me, I was just so shocked and so much in survival mode that I'm like, how I processed this moving forward, where it was like, we just have to rip off the Band-Aid and just finally make a decision. So we slept on it for 2 nights, and we still like slept together in the same bed. And I was the one that just like initiated everything. Like, no cocky shit, but he can't say like, I didn't try or I didn't initiate this. Like, I initiated everything. I'm sorry, but everything. Like, at this point, thank me that we're here in this position of where we are, because had I not said anything, I don't know how long this man would have kept living like this with me and lie to me. So then 2 days later, I'm like, hey, we need to talk about this. Like, how do you feel? And at that point, I knew how I felt, because this was the hardest part, is like, even though me saying like, I don't know how I felt, like, I still was in love with him, but I had to have this realized conversation with the both of us, because at the same time, God communicating with me was just getting too real. And then that's when he said, like, it was confirmed for him, and he no longer was in love with me anymore. And my heart sank again, but at the same time, it was like, I fucking knew it, but I didn't. I knew that God was communicating with me something about this, but I didn't know it was because he wasn't in love with me. Like, I didn't know. Like, maybe I did know, and I was in denial about it, and that's something I'm still like trying to process. But like, I guess I knew deep down inside like he wasn't the man for me, but I didn't think it would come true or this soon, right? Or it would be because he wasn't in love with me anymore. So throughout this, I had so many questions, like just so many questions. And I'll give him this, like the first 2 weeks, he would come and he would face the truth, like face the reality, like it's heavy coming home, and we would have conversations, and he would answer my questions that I had, like why, how, and his reasoning was that, like, I mean, like, till this day, I still don't really feel like I got a clear answer. It was kind of like I had to really help him identify it, but it sounded like it was just because I was just really draining, and I can see that, because all I just wanted was just his attention and just to be with him. But it also made sense why I was like that, because it's like I said, like my spirit knew, like the more that he was disengaged, the more that I clinged on to. And this is just months or a year of us not talking about the elephant in the room. And this is why I had so many questions, because you shut me down all this whole year and months, that when I gave you the opportunity to talk to me about it, you didn't. So it's just like, of course I'm going to have my questions, because this is years or months of suppressed conversations and emotions. Of course I'm going to want to know, like, why and how and all of that. And it just exhausted him for me to have these questions and just want to constantly talk to him about it. And I'm like, you can't get mad, because you're the reason why we're here. Like, you didn't say anything, and I gave you so many opportunities to, and all of that. And I'm like, how long were you going to lie to yourself, like, that you were happy? Like, why did we move into this apartment 5 months? Like, we moved into this apartment 5 months ago. Like, if you knew when our lease ended in our other place, like, that would have been a perfect opportunity to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not ready for an apartment with you, because truth is, I'm not in love with you anymore. Like, why would I have so many questions till this day, is like, why would you put yourself in that position? And his thing is like, I didn't know that I wasn't in love with you. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. How do you not know you're not in love with someone? It's like food. It's like you either like seafood or you don't. It's not like, I think I like seafood, or today I like seafood. It's like, no, like you either like something or you don't. So even his reasoning behind like, I don't know how I lost feelings or lost love for you, like it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Like, how do you not know? And like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you be in a relationship that you weren't happy in? Like, why would you carry it on for that long? Like 3 years is a long time, or 2 years living with each other is a long time. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, how do you not know that you don't love someone? Like, there has to be a reason for that. And his reason, yeah, was just like, I was just a lot. I was just emotionally taxing, which I get. I talked a lot. But like, those aren't bad reasons though. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course I had my toxic tendencies too. Like, we all do. But like, I don't know, y'all. It just doesn't make any sense. And so, yeah, I'll give him that. Like, he did answer those questions and all that. And he did appear to get emotional. Like, I could see it in his eyes. I could see it, like, how he was breathing. I even think I saw him maybe, like, cry, I think. And it was really weird, too, because, like, I actually didn't show any emotions, like, till this day. Like, I think he caught me crying once. But other than that, like, I was just very strong throughout this entire thing. Like, this entire thing, it really just felt like ripping off the Band-Aid and just, like, getting to the point of, like, all right, we just have to problem solve. Like, let's just get here. Like, you know, and I was the one that announced, like, all right, like, we're done here then, because you're not in love with me anymore. Like, then what are we doing, you know? And then I was the one that's like, all right, the next thing that we have to talk about is the next steps. Like, you know, him signing off the lease and da-da-da-da-da, because that's it, you know? And it didn't click for me. I was just in shock the entire month. I wasn't really eating. I was just staring at the wall. I was just dissociating. I was just in shock. I couldn't watch anything on TV. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't even know how I was doing work. Like, it just felt like I was floating. It felt like an out-of-body experience. And we both reflected and both agreed, like, this is really hard. But, like, we tried our best to, like, still talk through it and still affirm each other. And we agreed that, like, it was mutual. Because it was mutual for me, because I knew deep down inside this wasn't the man for me. And, like, I just didn't want to keep living like this. And for him, it was mutual because he didn't love me anymore. Yeah, and so throughout that entire month of January, I noticed just him changing even more. It kind of began to look like this was kind of easy for him. And I would talk to him about that, saying, like, it looks like you're not really going through a lot. And he would say, like, just because I'm not showing it doesn't mean it's not heavy. And I'm like, you know, touche, like, that's true. Like, Kenny does really do a really good job at hiding his emotions, unfortunately. So he does make it look like he's carrying his pain well. But I knew, like, this was tough for us. But it just looked like he was just probably handling it too strong. And I'm just going to go with my intuition on that, and just how much I could just kind of, like, read him and spiritually. Because, you know, then after, like, that 2 weeks of him coming home, he began to not come home. And this is when my friends and family were telling me, like, Marissa, like, sounds like you're just having a hard time adjusting, like, to the fact that you guys are broken up. Like, he really is not obligated to give you attention anymore, to be there with you, and you shouldn't be, like, you know, checking his location anymore. Like, you got to give him his space. Like, you know, you have to understand he's moving on. But I would be telling them, like, no, you guys are right, because I clearly have such a strong attachment to him. But I was also, like, feeling like something was just really off, because he started just going out a lot and getting all dressed up. And I'm like, wow, maybe he's really just trying to, like, surround himself with his friends like he says that he is. But then he'd be saying, like, shit like, oh, I'm gonna go clear my mind, go to the beach at, like, 11 p.m. And I'm like, bro, it's, like, cold outside and it's 11 p.m. Like, what? And then he would start saying that, and he'd be hanging out with friends a lot, and I'd bring that to his attention and be like, like, I want more conversations, and I know this is mutual, but like, I still was asking him to spend time with me and things like that. And I know that was like wrong, but it was because like my spirit just sensed something else and I just couldn't identify what it was. And then he would tell me like, I just need to understand that, we're broken up, and, kind of like what my friends and family were saying, like, he's not obligated to just still spend time with me. Like, I gotta have to learn how to like, we're gonna have to both how to learn how to like let go and both go our separate ways. I would call him out on like the fact like his location would be on and off, and I worked at the Apple store, so when he said this I was like and he would say like, oh yeah, so weird, my friends and I have been saying like that's been acting up, and I'm like that just sounds sus. And then even him going to the beach or hanging out late at night, and then there would be time periods where he just didn't come home. And I'm like, yo, where you at? Like, can you communicate with me? And I started crashing out sometimes, and then I'd feel really bad of crashing out. And now I'm kind of like, no, I don't feel bad, because my spirit was just like reacting to just something that was just off. Yeah, and then I would tell him like, it's affecting me that you're not coming home. And he would just say like, same thing, like, you got to learn how to like let go of me. We're just trying to like, let's just move on. We have to just occupy ourselves. Like, and then he just started saying like, coming home is just too hard for me, and I don't know how much I can take, and bullshit. Just bullshit, bro. Bullshit, because and I would tell him this, I'm like, every day I'm coming home facing the fact that like, we're not together. Like, I'm flooded. Till this day, I'm flooded with so much memories. And for you to say like, it's just too hard for you to come home is bullshit, because that's what I'm doing every single day. I'm facing this shit head first. And all of that. Let me see what time it is. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here because I have to go to bed, and I'm noticing my energy is just feeling really exhausted explaining this. I'm really close to kind of getting to explaining everything, but I'm really tired now, and I need all the energy I can get for work, because yes. So I'm going to pause that here. It's already going on almost like 50 minutes. So part 3 will be coming soon. But to end this off real quick, it does feel good to share all of this. And I was really emotional in the first video, and in this one I'm just kind of like breezing through it. But it really just honestly feels like I'm telling somebody else's story still. And that's also why I'm like, I don't know if I'm in shock or like I'm just still disconnected with this all. But yeah, it just doesn't feel real. But at the same time, it feels really good to let this out. And it does feel good to know like that heaviness is gone, and just his negative vibes are gone, and all of that. But it's just really sad, and it's really traumatizing, and I never just would have thought that it would have gotten the way that it did. And to know that I'm not even done yet, and to know that there's more to be revealed is just so crazy. Like, this is part 1, and part 2 of it is coming soon, because there was just so much that happened, and so much that this person put me through, when it could have been avoided a long time ago, and this person could have just communicated things in a whole different way. Instead, this just shows that when you don't communicate, you're not only hurting other people, but you're hurting yourself too. And I know communicating is like really hard, and expressing feelings is like really hard for some, but you're gonna have to face those fears to like free yourself and free that person as well. So just to know that I didn't even finish everything, and to know that there's just so much more for me to unpack. Well, not so much more, because I'm getting towards like pretty much the end. But just to know that there's another part 2 of the breakup is just like, wow, like this person really put me through a lot, and I wish it just went a different way. But I guess I had to go through all of this. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm really feeling tired, and I need to charge my battery so that way I can have the capacity to share part 2 of the breakup. All right, y'all. Good night.